Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out this tutorial. I just want to say before we start, thanks to everyone who also checked out the Patreon page. I really support it. Even if you just check it out, it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Okay guys, so first thing we're going to do in this tutorial is we're going to look at the camera system. So right now, if we play our game, our camera does nothing. If you can see on this side here, the player just moves back and forth. You can walk off the camera, out of the camera's view, and you can even fall down to the pits of hell. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to go onto the main camera and we're going to, oh, don't worry about that, that's something that I was testing before, and we're going to add a new component and we're going to call this camera, I suppose, camera system. Yeah, call it something like that, camera system, and then we're going to open that up. Okay, so I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. And then I'm going to create a couple of variables. So first of all is we want a private game object, which I'm going to call this player. Going to create a public float. I'm going to call this xmin. And we're going to do the same thing for x max, y min, y max. So if I just copy this, paste, 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 x max, y min, and y max. So these, basically what these are is these are things, these variables that will clamp the camera into a certain position so it doesn't keep moving off to the side. And yeah, so this is the first that can go on the X plane. This is the least that can go on the X plane. Sorry, the most can go on the X plane. The least can go on the Y plane. The max can go on the Y plane. Cool. So then to start, we're just going to say player equals get game object dot get dot find object with tag, and we're just going to type in player. So what that does there is it just searches the it searches the program, searches the game, finds any object with the tag flag, and then associates that with this variable here. So we can go back into Unity just quickly, and if we go to edit, I'm pretty sure, project settings, tags and inputs, we can go to our tags here and we can add a new tag and we can say player. Although, hang on a sec, I might just actually check. There might already be a tag player. There is already a tag player with a capital P. So we're going to go back into our tags and inputs, and we're going to actually get rid of that tag. And then go back into the script and change this to a capital P. And then go back into Unity, and we're going to change player to have the tag capital P player. So it's already a default in Unity to have a capital P player as a tag. So that's just a tag that, it's like you're just tagging something with, like, this is a tag. This is a player. Man, my brain today. You're tagging something as the player. So then you can access that through scripts. Cool. So let's just test, make sure everything's running fine. Okay, something's not. I had a problem with find objects with tag. We're going to change it to find object with tag. Let's go back to Unity. Everything runs fine, fantastic. And if we press play, you'll see here that on the camera, oh, it's not actually public, so you can't see it. But keep in mind that it is associated with the this variable here is now associated with. Let's just make it public so you guys can see. Press play, and then the player variable is associated with the player game object. Fantastic. Don't necessarily need it to be public, but so I'm just going to make it private. But it doesn't really matter at this stage. It's not that important. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we've associated our game object player here with the actual player. So now we want to, in update, we want to move the camera. So instead of using update, it's sometimes good to use late update, which gets called at the end. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it gets called at the end of the update cycle. But I could be wrong there, but I know that when using camera systems, I found that late update is a better method than using just update or fixed update. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to say float x equals mathf.clamp, and we're going to clamp it to player from, we're going to clamp the value is going to be player dot transform dot position dot x, and we're going to clamp it to x min to x max. Cool, and then we can copy this line of code, and you guessed it, float, creating a new variable called float y, and that's going to be equal to mathf.clamp player transform.position.y to y min and y max. Fantastic. And then we can just say game object dot transform dot position equals new vector 3, which is going to be x, which is this variable here, y, which is this variable here, and then game object dot transform dot position dot z, because we don't want to change the z because we're making a 2D game. Okay, so let's test that out and see what happens. So if we press play, character moves and nothing much happens. But if we go over here and we change the min, you'll see the camera position moves. And let's say we bring it to like -2. And that means that the camera will move around, but then as soon as it gets to, oh, that was lucky, as soon as it gets to the edge of the screen, as you can see here, the camera will stop moving because it's clamped to this. The minimum it can go is -2.27. So obviously you'll adjust this to be the same as your level, and then we can also do the same for max. So we can bring the max up to, let's say, 2.1, and then it'll stop. So that's fantastic. That works just how we would like it. And also, if you have a level that you don't want the camera to follow too far, you up too up. If you don't want the camera to follow you up too far, or you don't want it to follow you down too far, you can change the y min and the y max, just like this, and it just sets the boundary of the camera. Cool. So I'm just going to change this to -2 and 2, and that should be what we want for now. Cool. But in the game here, you can't really see what's going on. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add something that the player can like jump on. So if we go over to our project, go into our stuff here, we can get this block here, I suppose, drag it in, and we'll add a box collider to it, 2D. And I suppose we can, yeah, we'll just leave it like that, and we'll call this, for now, we'll just call this box. And we can drag that into here, makes it a prefab, which is an object that you can use over and over again. And then we can move this around, let's move it just here, because something the player to jump over. And then we press play. And now we can see in our game view that our player can now collide with this box. He can jump underneath. If I just make it a little bit higher, might be better. He just fell off the edge. Awesome. And the camera clamps just as we would like it to, and everything is working fine. It doesn't have much, it's working pretty smoothly. Fantastic. Oh, guys, well, that's the camera system at least prototyped in a way that will work for prototyping, and it's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it, with what we've done in this short amount of time. Okay, so next thing. Okay, so the next thing we probably want to do is we want to look at player health, maybe. So I think that'd probably be a good place to start. We'll just build a very simple health script. So you got to think about it in the form of like games. When I first started making games in Unity, I connected just a generic third-person character controller to a game object, and I had it jump off a really high cliff. And when it hit the ground, I was surprised because like, wait, it didn't die. And I was like, and then I came to the realization like, man, I need to program in the ability to die, it's amazing how little people who don't program or know how to make games know about actual how games work. But yes, we can start that now. So we'll create a new script, and we might change this in the future. But we're going to call this player health. And I think just so everyone's aware, in the future, what I'm going to do is we're going to do things a pretty simple way. I think I'll explain this a bit more in the last episode, and then later on, we're going to actually build our game to be a lot more fleshed out and a lot more like we might be a whole episode of just joining scripts together, making it less convoluted and just better and easier to read. So we will be doing a little of maintenance throughout this course, but that's all part of game development. And I think it's better to do it this way because it helps people we kind of grow with the project, if that makes sense. So let's just open up the player health script, and let's just create a public bool has died. We're just going to call this public bool has died, and we're going to create a public int health. Actually, we don't actually need this yet, but we're just going to leave this here. But we don't actually need this yet because we're just going to create a very, very simple version where we're just going to check, is the player died or has he not died? And then in void start, we're just going to say has died equals false because the player has not died. Aha, we are so smart. And then we're just going to, I suppose the easiest way to check if like we could put an enemy in, and it would take a considerable amount of time to kind of code in some enemy AI and things like that. But for now, like the simplest way Mario dies, for instance, is just falling down a hole. So we could make it so let's say our player kicking along here, he falls down a hole, and he dies. Because we're doing that, let's just increase this to, let's say, 5. So that means that the camera will go off the edge, and then the player can fall down the edge in the game. And we're going to actually let's make it a little bit more interesting. Let's go to the ground. Let's duplicate the ground, and let's bring a little gap there. And we're going to go back to the let's check the ground. Cool, and go back to the camera, and we'll change this to say 15. So let's have a look. Cool, and you can fall down and die. All right, cool. So we got this area here. Now, what you could do is you could have a trigger down here that just like an empty box collider. Let's just create a new empty, and we'll call this, add a box collider to it, tick it as a is trigger, make it like that, and then you could tag it with something like death zone or whatever. So when the player landed into this trigger zone, it would call the method and the die method, and your character would die. But what we're going to do is something a little bit different. So let's just delete that. And for now, we're just going to say, well, if the player gets below a certain Y position, then he's dead. That's just the bottom line. Now this will only work on a game that's completely flat. So obviously in the future we'll probably change it. But let's just check the player here. I love our artwork, by the way. It's my artwork. It's just it's amazing. So if we bring the player down, let's say if the player ever gets to -7, then the player's dead, and that's pretty fair call, I'm pretty sure. So let's go into our script here, and we can say if game object dot transform little g dot transform dot position dot y is less than -7, debug dot log this is just for some debugging, player has died. And before we do anything, we should probably go to the player and actually attach the player health script. Pop, and he falls down, and then in our debug here, player has died. Fantastic. But let's start the game again quickly just to check. There's nothing, and when he falls down, player has died when he goes underneath 7. So instead of saying debug player has died, we can just say has died equals true, which is this variable here. And then we can also have another if statement in here that says if has died equals 2 equal signs true. So you're asking the question with 2 equal signs. 1 equal sign you're assigning. And if that equals true, then we can start a coroutine which is going to make the player die. But let's just say so coroutines, I've covered them in our last kind of episodes. They're very similar to methods or functions, but the difference is they you can wait, you can pause for a few seconds, and so that's why I really like them. So if we say I enumerator and we just say die, then we can say yield. Good brain today. Yield return new wait for seconds. And we can just say wait for seconds. And then we can do something. But right now we're just going to say debug.log player has fallen. And then a second later, player has died. Oh, maybe it's 2 seconds. And then, so if player if has died equals true, we can say start coroutine. And I think I was watching a tutorial the other day by Sebastian League, and I think you can just pass a string if it doesn't have any arguments associated with that. So we'll just try that. Start coroutine die. So let's just see if that works. Press play. Okay, so the player moves along, and then when he falls down, player has fallen. And if we pause that and we go down to all the debugs, and we see player has died. So after 2 seconds, it turned on player has died. But you see it also has player has fallen, player has died, player has fallen. It's all convoluted here. The reason is because when we see this void update gets called every single frame, and so if has died equals true, it's running this coroutine every single frame, which is then starting a new version, a new instance of this method here, and it's calling this, waiting 2 seconds, then calling this, then calling this, and then waiting 2 seconds, then calling this, and it's not good, not a good idea. But what we can simply just do is just delete this, delete this. We'll have to fix this in the future, but just for now, we can just restart the level, and that will serve its purposes fine. Our death script, our player health script is working kind of. It needs to be fixed, but it's still working a little bit. So to start the new level is we say using. I should explain. We go up here to the namespaces here. Namespaces are things that you like libraries that you call into the script to help, so you can use certain functionality that are within that library. And so up here we're just going to say using Unity engine dot scene management, and then we're going to say scene dot load scene, and we're just going to pass a string name main. Cool, and let's just check if that works. We have to go yield return null, because it always has to return something with an enumerator. Cool, so it goes down here, and it's saying that we don't actually have a scene called main, and we don't. We have a scene called prototype underscore 1, so let's copy that, and save that there, and go back. Yeah, there we go. The scene restarts. Pop. So there you have it. We have our player moving left and right and the camera following him until we get to the edge. And you could easily, if you wanted the player just not to go any further there, you could just put just a box collider just there, and it would stop the player from moving any further. You can jump, just like we did last episode, and the camera will stop at a certain spot over here. Won't go any further. That's the camera script that we built, and when he falls down, it starts the level. And if he falls at this side, restarts the level. Cool, fantastic, guys. So now we have a camera script, and we have the basic functionality of a death script. Yes, it is a little bit broken. The coroutine shouldn't be getting called that many times, but we'll fix that in a later episode. So thanks so much, guys, for checking out this tutorial. Make sure you check out the Patreon page. It really does warms the cockles left in my heart. So thanks heaps, guys, and I'll see you next episode. And yeah, peace.